What is up, ninjas? My name is Sam World, and today we're going to be taking a tutorial suggestion from you guys. I've been posting Instagram tutorials up now because that's the new thing, and I'm trying to stay relevant with you guys and stuff. But I did ask you guys, because I'm running out of ideas, was, yo, what tutorials would you like to see? And while I did get a bunch, as you guys can see here, I have a lot. The one that stood out that we're going to be making today, and we'll make the other ones too, I promise, but it's going to be how to make wide basses without fucking up mono compatibility. Okay, this is a question that was asked to me, and it's a video I haven't made. I searched it up and everything. Okay, guys, so nowadays we want wide basses. It's no longer about that big top end, you know, like big top end. It's more about wide basses. But how do you do that properly? Let's say, you know, the hipsters of today decide that, you know what, stereo systems that are brand new that play stuff in stereo are too modern. They're uncool. We got to be hipsters, and they're gonna go to the 50s and buy a jukebox that plays in mono. So you got to make sure your music is good there, as hipsters are the ones frequenting these festivals nowadays. So how do we get proper mono compatibility when you make a bassline wide? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, now before we get started with this tutorial, guys, as always, if you want to support my channel, you can head over to evilsounds.com. But with that being said, let's get straight into this tutorial. So here I have the outcome of what we're doing, and in essence we're going to use Ozone 9 Imager to let us know if we are mono compatible. And the way we're going to do this is simply by looking over here at our phase correlation. We got a +1 and -1, and then a 0 in the middle. If this is up at +1, that means you have perfect mono compatibility. If it's at -1, there's some issues. There's probably phase cancellation going on. Now when I play this bass, it sounds like a fart, but at the same time, you can see it's staying up there in the +1. It's staying above 0. And that should always be your goal with this stuff. Now, what I want you guys to notice is when I get rid of our sub here and I decide to get rid of some of the stuff I've done for this bass I did, notice how we go down into -1 territory now. And there are some big crucial things you have to do, again, to get mono compatibility. And now let's learn what they are. Alright, guys, and welcome inside of Ableton. So here we have a bassline from the Confessions Revolution Volume 3 pack, which sounds like this. A very strong bassline for confession stuff. Now, you may have heard Homie Hug or Loogie 21, and they have wide basslines, and you're like, man, I want to do that just like them. I want to be just like those homies hugging, whatever. How do we maintain that mono compatibility that Sen has maintained in the preset? Now, a lot of people will go with the HAAS, and that will successfully get your sound to sound wide by messing up the phase of the left and the right signal, which in essence means you're going to mess up your mono compatibility. It's one way. You sacrifice the mono compatibility to get the stereo-ness, and it works well with stuff that, again, isn't that crucial, isn't driving the track. But when you have it on this, you know, you can see something happens there, and mono compatibility, it's just mess. Now, the key thing with this, and the reason I'm using the Ozone Imager, is if my bass or something is going like that down to 0, it means that when I play this in mono, it's going to sound like doo-doo. You can already hear it. Now, if I turn off the HAAS, back to the glory days, turn it back up, you can see what happens. Now, if your song is getting heard on headphones and stuff like that, you know, it's going to sound fine. But the issue comes when it goes and gets played in a mono system, like, again, hipster with the grandma jukebox. You want to show them what's up. You want to make sure it's fat. You want to make sure they go like, oh, it's no bangs in here, and they'll respect you a little more if that's what you think. So how do we do a proper one? Well, one of the ways that some people will tell you, the first one is to duplicate the preset, change it a little bit, pan right and left. Now, you can actually do that, which is the cool thing. But the other thing, too, is that if you have a preset where it doesn't have a retrig, and what that means is the phase, this arm phase isn't down 0, making the phase start in the same position, that can actually work. But the problem with that is that it's also going to mess up your mono compatibility. You can see it sounds like crap, but if we take off the mono, we successfully widen it again. But again, the issue is that this doesn't sound good in Grandma's Jukebox. So what do we do? Well, the key thing, and I have the right solution for this in the right preset, of course. I have this preset called BA Hard Rock, which is a little bit more of a distorted version. It has a different wavetable. It's not a sine getting distorted. It's actually going to be Chappie. I think that's the name of the wavetable from that movie. Getting distorted. Now, we're going to pan this one hard right and this one hard left and turn it on. And you can kind of see. Now we're starting to get a little bit of a better improvement on it. But the problem is, you can see this is all over the place. Now, the reason for that is no matter what kind of sound you have, the low end, the sub territory will always sound like a fucking sine wave. So those are always going to fight. So the next thing you need to do from there is you need to grab an EQ8 and you need to cut out all the lows that you don't need. And then you're going to use a dedicated sub, which could be like a triangle wave, a sine wave, whatever you want. And then you're going to use that in essentially a layer. So now when you play it together, we have width, and we also have a good amount of mono compatibility. Now, it's not at super +1, but it's there. But the biggest test is going to be monoing it and making sure it doesn't lose power. Now, in order to test that, you can just return this to default here, and then you just do it. And as you can see, the power loss isn't that big. It's very minimal. In fact, you could say that it sounds a lot better when we actually pan hard left and hard right with the bass lines. But in essence, now if I get rid of this again, we have the stereo response. We have good mono compatibility. And essentially our low end sounds good. Now let's assume that we don't use the sub and we just have the left and right signal like that at 17. In fact, let's just give the low end back and just see how that sounds like. Here we have a wide low end, and you can see mono compatibility is going to suck. And that's just going to do the phase of the low end. As the low end plays in both of them, they might be inverted at certain points, aka the sign on the left bass might be up and the sign on the right might be down. So that's an inversion, and they cancel each other out. So that's probably what's happening when you get this going up and down like. So the biggest thing there is, again, to use a dedicated sub just to maintain constant power of the low end and total control of it. But in essence, that's going to be the best way to get a wide bass line with proper mono compatibility like a pro. Utilize two presets that are similar. Utilize two presets that aren't the same wavetable. Pan hard left, hard right with them. You can do it less if you don't want it that wide. And then from there, you know what to do. Get a dedicated sub for that, and you're set to go with your mono compatible wide bass line that's going to sound the same in mono and in stereo. With that being said, guys, though, thank you guys for viewing this channel, viewing this video. As always, make sure to hit like if you found this video useful. Leave tutorial suggestions below on stuff that might be confusing you or questions you might have. I try to do a little bit of research when I make these kind of videos just to see if there's any possible other options out there that people have made. The only other one I could find was this plugin called Wider by Polyverse, which I did used to be a huge fan of. Sadly, I don't use it that much anymore because I have found that essentially making stuff wide properly with proper etiquette without using pseudo stereo like the HAAS effect and stuff like that sounds a lot better. But if we do but my mono compatibility is still going to suffer a little bit from it. So if I put this, like, let's say at 100 like they say we should, we still have a bit of issues with the mono compatibility. That's probably due to the low end, but that's another option that you might have. But anyways, the cleanest way I found is the panning trick. That's the only way. It works with claps, vocals, anything. Claps that sound different, do that. That's how you get a clean wide clap without messing up the phase of the clap, making it sound like when you mono it down. But you guys take care, and you guys have an amazing day. I'll see you guys tomorrow for another video.